30 minutes before showtime, Marilyn Monroe was missing. Peter Lawford, the host of the evening, was panicking. "Where is she? She's supposed to be on in half an hour." Security searched the entire Madison Square Garden. Finally, they found her, locked in a bathroom, crying, a bottle of champagne in her hand. "I can't do this," she sobbed. "Jackie's going to be there. Bobby told me not to come. This is a mistake." But then something changed. Marilyn looked in the mirror, wiped her tears, and made a decision. "No," she said, "I'm doing this. Jack promised he'd leave Jackie for me. If he won't tell the world, I will." She walked out of that bathroom transformed. No longer the scared, insecure woman. Now she was a weapon. The dress was delivered at the last minute, so tight it had to be sewn onto her body. The rhinestones caught every light, making her look naked. And when Peter Lawford introduced her as the late Marilyn Monroe because she was 40 minutes behind schedule, Marilyn walked onto that stage like she owned it. What followed was 40 seconds that shocked the world, destroyed her relationship with the Kennedys, and may have sealed her death warrant 3 months later. Let's look behind the curtain of this iconic performance together. If you love Hollywood's most scandalous moments and secret love stories, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because this wasn't just a performance, this was political suicide, a public confession, and possibly a murder motive. The relationship between Marilyn Monroe and John F. Kennedy began in the summer of 1961 at Peter Lawford's beach house in Malibu. Lawford, an actor and Kennedy's brother-in-law, was a bridge between Hollywood and the White House. That evening, Marilyn was invited for what was described as a casual dinner. But when Marilyn arrived, there were only a few people: Lawford, his wife Pat Kennedy Lawford, and President Kennedy. Jackie wasn't there. She was in Virginia with the children. Marilyn immediately understood. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a setup. Kennedy was charming, charismatic, and powerful. That night, they talked for hours about politics, cinema, life. Kennedy was intelligent, witty, and seemed genuinely interested in Marilyn. Most men saw Marilyn only as a body, but Kennedy seemed to listen to her ideas, or at least he pretended to. As the night progressed, the guest count dwindled. The Lawfords excused themselves, claiming they were tired. And suddenly, Marilyn and Kennedy were alone, listening to the ocean, drinking wine. Kennedy moved closer. "I've wanted to know you for so long, Marilyn. Not just as a star, but as a person." Marilyn smiled, that famous half-smile. "And do you know me now, Mr. President?" Kennedy placed his hand on hers. "I want to know more." Nobody knows exactly what happened that night, but when Marilyn left the Lawfords' house the next morning, everything had changed. The affair had begun, dangerous, secret, and ultimately destructive. In the following months, Kennedy and Marilyn met several more times, always secretly, always at the Lawfords' house or private locations. Kennedy sometimes came to Los Angeles for official visits, but the real reason was Marilyn. Secret Service agents waited silently in the hallway. Lawford stood guard at the door, and inside, the president and Hollywood's most famous star stole hours together. Marilyn fell in love, quickly and deeply. She saw Kennedy not just as a man, but as salvation. Maybe, just maybe, she could become the president's wife. Maybe she could replace Jackie. Did Kennedy promise her this? Marilyn told her friends he did. "Jack told me he's leaving Jackie. He needs some time, but he'll do it." But did Kennedy really make such a promise? Or did Marilyn hear what she wanted to hear? The truth is, probably the latter. At the beginning of 1962, things got complicated. John F. Kennedy's brother, Robert F. Kennedy, then Attorney General, started worrying about his brother. "Jack, you need to end this Marilyn thing. It's too dangerous. The press could find out any minute. Edgar Hoover knows everything, and he's keeping files." JFK promised to be careful, but didn't end the relationship. Instead, he sent Bobby. "Go talk to her. Explain nicely. Offer her something." Bobby accepted the mission, but reluctantly. When he met with Marilyn, he found a woman in defensive mode. "Bobby, you know Jack promised me. He's leaving Jackie." Bobby shook his head. "Marilyn, Jack will never leave his wife. I'm very sorry, but you need to know this isn't going to happen." Marilyn's eyes filled with tears. "You're lying. Jack loves me." Bobby looked at her with pity. "Maybe he does, but he won't leave Jackie for you. Never." This conversation devastated Marilyn, but it affected Bobby differently. As he spent time with Marilyn, saw her fragility, he found himself drawn to her. At first it was protective instinct, brotherly duty, but then it became something else. Bobby started meeting Marilyn regularly to check on her, but it became more than checking. Some historians claim Bobby also had an affair with Marilyn. The evidence isn't definitive, but there are indicators. Marilyn told friends, "I'm seeing Bobby now," and the Kennedy family panicked. One brother was bad, two brothers was a disaster. Peter Lawford tried to warn Marilyn, "Marilyn, stop playing with the Kennedys. They're dangerous. They're using you, and when it's over, they'll dump you." But Marilyn didn't listen. A plan was forming in her head. If the Kennedys wanted to keep her secret, she would expose everything. And the perfect opportunity was coming. JFK's 45th birthday celebration at Madison Square Garden, in front of 15,000 people, broadcast live on television. Marilyn was invited to sing a song, and in that moment she knew she would use this chance. Marilyn gave costume designer Jean Louis clear instructions. "I want something that shows me naked. I want to look like I'm wearing nothing under the spotlights. Especially, I want Jackie to see this." Jean Louis hesitated at first. "Marilyn, this is very bold. It could be career suicide." Marilyn smiled. "I know, but you need to do it." Jean-Louis got to work. What he created was a work of art, but also a scandal manifesto. Flesh-colored, thin, almost transparent fabric, covered with 12,000 rhinestones, each hand-sewn, strategically placed. When light hit it, the stones sparkled and created an optical illusion. Marilyn looked naked. The dress was so tight Marilyn couldn't get into it. It literally had to be sewn onto her body. No zipper, no underwear possible. This wasn't just a dress. This was a second skin. The dress cost $12,000, an astronomical figure for 1962. The studio refused to pay. "This is political suicide, Marilyn." "We can't finance this." Marilyn used her own money. It was worth it. Because this dress wasn't just clothing, it was a message weapon. The message, "I'm sleeping with the president and I'm not hiding it." When the dress was finished, Marilyn tried it on and looked in the mirror. The crystals reflected light, emphasized every curve of her body, and yes, she looked almost naked. "Perfect," Marilyn said. "Exactly what I wanted." Jean Louis was worried. "Marilyn, have you thought about the consequences?" Marilyn looked at him. "Yes, I have. And I don't care. Jack should be proud of me. If he's not, I'll make everyone see." As the performance date approached, Marilyn did vocal preparation. But the lyrics were simple. What mattered was the delivery. Her voice coach taught her how to sing breathily, how to elongate each word, how to create sexual tension. Marilyn practiced over and over. She sang the words, "Happy birthday to you," as if she were whispering in a bedroom. The coach warned, "Marilyn, if you sing it that way, everyone will know you're sleeping with him." Marilyn smiled. That's exactly what I want. Madison Square Garden was at capacity. 15,000 people, Democratic Party donors, celebrities, politicians, and media. The stage was gloriously set up, a huge birthday cake, flags, and a huge Happy Birthday, Mr. President banner. President Kennedy sat in the front row, his family and friends beside him. But Jackie Kennedy wasn't there. Official explanation: in Virginia with the children. Real reason: Jackie knew everything and refused to watch. Some sources claim Jackie told Peter Lawford, "If that slut goes on stage, I won't be there." And Jackie wasn't. The show began. Various artists performed. 9 o'clock came, past 10. Marilyn's time to go on had come, but she wasn't there. Backstage was chaos. Peter Lawford was running around. "Where's Marilyn?" Finally, they found her in the bathroom, half drunk, crying. Lawford pulled her out. "Marilyn, you need to go on now." "Everyone's waiting." Marilyn shook her head. "I can't, Pete. This is crazy. I'll destroy Jackie. I'll destroy Jack." Lawford looked at her. "Marilyn, either you go on now or you don't go on at all. Your choice." Marilyn took a deep breath, looked in the mirror, fixed her makeup. "Okay, I'm going on." Being sewn into the dress, Marilyn suffered. The fabric was so tight she had trouble breathing. But she didn't care. The crystals sparkled, wrapped around her body. Waiting backstage, Marilyn thought one last time. There was no turning back from this point. This performance would change everything. Then the music started playing. Peter Lawford came to the microphone and said, "Mr. President, the late Marilyn Monroe." The word "late" was a joke because Marilyn was 40 minutes late. But no one could know the meaning then. 3 months later, Marilyn would truly be late. Marilyn walked onto the stage and the world stopped. The moment the spotlights hit her, 15,000 people held their breath. The dress, that incredible dress, made Marilyn look almost naked. The crystals sparkled with her every movement, cameras flashed, and television cameras zoomed in. Marilyn came to the microphone, smiled, and started to speak. But she didn't speak actually, she whispered, that breathy, sexual voice. "Happy birthday to you." She elongated every word, made every syllable erotic. She looked directly at President Kennedy, as if only the two of them were there. "Happy birthday to you." 15,000 people watched silently, shocked, mesmerized. On television, millions watched. And everyone thought the same thing. "This isn't a birthday song. This is a love confession," Marilyn continued, swaying her body, swiveling her hips, every movement calculated. The dress seemed to open with movement, showing more skin. Some viewers were uncomfortable, some were excited, but everyone was hypnotized. Kennedy sat at the front of the stage, smiling, but there was panic in his eyes. This was too obvious, too clear. Everyone knew now. When Marilyn finished the song, when she whispered, "Happy birthday, Mr. President," the crowd exploded. Applause, whistles, screams. But the applause wasn't just for the performance. The applause was for the scandal, for the shock, for the amazement of, what did we just watch? Kennedy went on stage, hugged Marilyn, smiled for the cameras, but he whispered in her ear, "What do you think you're doing?" Marilyn whispered back, "Acting like you promised. If you can't declare it, I will." Kennedy pulled back, turned to the microphone and made a joke. "I can now retire from the presidency after having had Happy Birthday sung to me in such a sweet, wholesome way." The crowd laughed, but everyone knew the truth. This wasn't a joke. This was a confession. After the performance, backstage was chaos. Marilyn was still in the dress, couldn't take it off because it was sewn on. As her assistants carefully cut stitches, Marilyn drank champagne and laughed. "I did it! I showed everyone." Peter Lawford was furious. "Marilyn, do you know what you've done? Bobby's going to kill me. Jack's going to kill me. This is career suicide." Marilyn didn't care. "It's not a secret anymore, Pete. Everyone knows, and Jack will stay with me because he has no other choice." But Marilyn was wrong. The Kennedys always had other choices. Kennedy came to Marilyn's dressing room, but not alone. Secret Service agents waited outside. Inside, Kennedy dropped the mask. "Marilyn, this relationship is over. After today, we won't meet again. We won't talk again. Understood?" Marilyn was shocked. "What?" "But Jack, I love you. You love me, too." Kennedy shook his head. "No, Marilyn. I liked you. But this is impossible now. Tonight you ruined everything." Marilyn started crying. "Please, Jack, don't leave me. I did everything for you." Kennedy headed for the door. "No, Marilyn, you did everything for yourself, and now you'll live with the consequences." He closed the door and left. Marilyn remained on the floor, crying, and in that moment understood. She'd lost the game. The next day, the newspapers exploded. Every headline was the same story. "Marilyn Monroe confesses love to President." "Scandalous performance shocks Madison Square Garden." "Jackie Kennedy skips show." Photos were everywhere. Marilyn in that dress, singing to Kennedy, crystals sparkling. The public was divided. Some found it romantic, some found it scandalous. But everyone was talking, and the Kennedy family panicked. A week after the performance, when Marilyn picked up the phone, the line was dead. Kennedy didn't call, Bobby didn't call, even Peter Lawford didn't call. Marilyn's agent delivered the bad news. "20th Century Fox fired you. You've been removed from Something's Got to Give production. Your contract is canceled." Marilyn couldn't believe it. "What?" "Why?" The agent explained. "The studio says you're unreliable, unprofessional, and now you're a political liability. Nobody wants to work with you." Marilyn hung up the phone and cried. Her career, the career she'd built over decades, was crumbling because of one performance. But worse was coming. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover was keeping files. The Kennedys' relationships with Marilyn, phone records, meeting dates, everything. Hoover used this information to control the Kennedys. "Mr. President," Hoover said in a meeting, "you have a Marilyn Monroe problem. If this leaks to the press, your presidency is over. Recommendation? Cut all ties. Immediately." Kennedy agreed to comply. And so Marilyn was completely isolated. The Secret Service began monitoring her. Her phones were tapped. Her house was watched. Marilyn felt paranoid because she really was being watched. In June 1962, Marilyn tried to call Bobby Kennedy. Surprisingly, Bobby answered, but there was no warmth in his voice. "Marilyn, there's a reason I haven't called you. This relationship must end." Marilyn begged, "Bobby, you understood me more than Jack. Please come see me." Bobby paused. Some sources say Bobby saw Marilyn one last time at her Los Angeles home in July. What was discussed at that visit? Nobody knows for sure. But Marilyn told friends, "Bobby's coming. He'll help me. The Kennedys won't abandon me." But she was wrong. At the beginning of August, Marilyn decided to hold a press conference. "I'm going to tell everything," she told friends. "My relationship with Jack, what happened with Bobby, how the Kennedys used and dumped me. I'll give it to the press." According to agents, Marilyn was actually keeping a diary, collecting phone records, and saving gifts the Kennedys had given her. Her intention was to hold the press conference on August 6th, but it never happened. On the night of August 5th, Marilyn died, officially from a drug overdose, probable suicide. The death was sudden and suspicious. Marilyn's housekeeper, Eunice Murray, changed her story several times. Doctors were called late. Police weren't informed for hours. And the most suspicious part, an ambulance was called to Marilyn's house that night, but it's not in official reports. Some witnesses claimed they saw Robert Kennedy in Los Angeles that night, even though his official itinerary said Virginia. Conspiracy theories started immediately. Did the Kennedys kill Marilyn? Was the CIA involved? Was it just an accident? We'll never know the truth for certain. But one thing is sure. The Madison Square Garden performance was the event that started Marilyn's death spiral. That performance burned bridges with the Kennedys, made Hollywood turn its back on her, divided the public, and put Marilyn in a dangerous position. She knew too much. She could say too much. And for certain people, that was unacceptable. Jackie Kennedy never directly spoke about Marilyn's death, but in the late 1960s, she reportedly told a close friend, "That night at Madison Square Garden, I was humiliated before the world. Every woman's nightmare, your husband's mistress, denying your existence, declaring her love to him in front of millions. What did Marilyn expect? Applause? Acceptance? I would never forgive her, and Jack didn't either. That performance was her end." These words are unconfirmed, but Jackie's hatred for Marilyn was well known. Interestingly, after JFK's assassination in 1963, Jackie didn't remarry for years. Not until 1968, when she married Greek billionaire Aristotle Onassis. And Onassis, coincidentally, was also a close friend of Marilyn Monroe's. Some theories suggest Jackie's marriage to Onassis was a form of revenge, an insult to Marilyn's memory. But this is speculative. The dress Marilyn wore that night is now a piece of history. It's said to be cursed. Jean-Louis never made the dress again after Marilyn's death. "That dress killed her," he said in an interview. "It was career suicide, political suicide, and maybe actual suicide." The dress was kept in private collections for decades. When it went to auction in 1999, it sold for $1,300,000, a record for a dress at the time. The buyer remained anonymous. In 2016, a controversial event happened. Kim Kardashian wanted to wear Marilyn's original dress to the Met Gala, but wasn't allowed. It was too fragile. In 2022, she tried again, and this time was permitted. Kim wore the dress for just a few minutes, but scandal erupted again. The dress was damaged, historians were outraged, and Kim faced public backlash. Some see the dress as a sacred historical artifact, some as a symbol of scandal, but everyone agrees. That dress isn't just fabric and stones, it's the embodiment of a moment, a love, a tragedy. The Madison Square Garden performance became iconic in American culture. Marilyn's "Happy Birthday, Mr. President" has been parodied, referenced, and honored countless times. Madonna, Lady Gaga, Beyoncé, all recreated this performance or paid homage. But none captured the impact of the original because the original's context was unique. A real relationship, a real love confession, a real scandal. The performance also raised important questions about women and power dynamics. Was Marilyn a victim, used and discarded? Or was she a manipulator, using sexuality to gain power? The truth is probably a mixture of both. Marilyn was definitely used by the Kennedys, by Hollywood, by the system. But Marilyn was also an active player, making her own decisions, taking her own risks. That performance was Marilyn's choice, and the consequences, tragic and deadly, were also her consequences. Feminist historians interpret Marilyn's performance differently. Some see it as empowerment. Marilyn used female sexuality as a weapon, challenged male power, and brought even a president to his knees. Others see it as objectification. Marilyn, within the patriarchal system, was forced to use her body as her only value, and this ultimately killed her. Both interpretations are valid. Marilyn was both powerful and powerless, both victim and perpetrator. John F. Kennedy is mostly remembered today as a great president, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the space program, civil rights. But his private life was full of scandals. Marilyn was just one. There were dozens of other women. Kennedy was sexually reckless, took risks that were unacceptable for a president, and the Marilyn case, especially, raises questions about Kennedy's character. He cheated on his wife, lied to her, used her, and then when she became dangerous, dumped her. What does this moral failure say about Kennedy's leadership legacy? Modern historians are reassessing Kennedy. In the Me Too era, Kennedy's treatment of women is seen as unacceptable today. His relationship with Marilyn is especially problematic. Power imbalance, president versus star, manipulation, false promises, and possibly contributing to Marilyn's death. Some historians argue that even if Kennedy wasn't directly responsible, he's indirectly guilty. If he hadn't used Marilyn, if he hadn't lied to her, if he hadn't put her in a dangerous position, maybe Marilyn would be alive today. Marilyn Monroe's Madison Square Garden performance lasted 40 seconds, but its echoes continue for more than 60 years. That performance is a symbol of many things: forbidden love, female sexuality, political scandal, Hollywood tragedy, and perhaps murder. That night, Marilyn achieved something. She guaranteed immortality. But the price was her life. 3 months after the performance, she died, at 36, alone, abandoned, and hopeless. If Marilyn could go back to that night, would she do something different? Maybe. Maybe she wouldn't wear that dress. Maybe she wouldn't sing that way. Maybe she wouldn't expose the Kennedys. But probably not, because Marilyn Monroe was a woman who didn't play by the rules. She refused to be used by a system, forgotten, to disappear quietly. And if that led to her death, at least it was on her own terms. It was the consequence of her own choices. Those 40 seconds at Madison Square Garden were Marilyn's last great performance. And what a performance it was! The world is still talking, still debating, still remembering. Marilyn wanted this, immortality, and she got it. But at what cost? A life, a future, and maybe a chance at real love. Marilyn Monroe died on August 5th, 1962. But that night, May 19th, 1962, on the Madison Square Garden stage, with crystals sparkling, singing to Kennedy, Marilyn stepped into immortality. And that immortality, tragic and beautiful, will last forever.